Hey, everybody. So this is chapter 6. This is supply and demand together. So this is where we're going to take all the things that we've learned about demand and then supply and then do exactly what you think it is, which is put them together. So we have three focus questions that we're going to look at. We're going to look at how do supply and demand determine price? What happens to price when the market has a surplus? And then what happens to price when the market has a shortage? So the biggest new information that we're going to be presented with is price, which that one's very simple, and then surplus and shortage. So our key terms that we're going to look at are surplus, shortage, equilibrium, equilibrium quantity, equilibrium price, inventory, price ceiling, and price floor. So how do you move to the equilibrium? So at the equilibrium price, the quantity of the good that buyers are willing and able to buy exactly balances the quantity that sellers are willing and able to sell. So what we have here is we have our supply curve, we have our demand curve, and where they intersect, that point we call equilibrium, okay? And then from that equilibrium, if we move left over to the y-axis, we get the equilibrium price, $4, and we have the equilibrium quantity supplied, which is 40, okay? So the equilibrium price is sometimes also called the market clearing price because at this price, everybody in the market has been satisfied, meaning everybody who wants something has purchased it. And then that's it, okay? Buyers have bought what they want to buy. Sellers have sold what they want to sell. It's perfect. I mean, this makes it sound like it's easy, but in reality, this thing is constantly in flux, but still. All right, quantity supplied to quantity demanded. So the actions of buyers and sellers naturally move the markets towards the equilibrium of supply and demand, okay? The supply and demand of the market are not always aligned, though. And so what we have are two conditions beyond equilibrium. One is called surplus and one is called shortage. And how you quantify these things or what the relationship is if the quantity supplied is greater than the quantity demanded, you have a surplus. And this is going to affect the price. However, if the quantity demanded is greater than the quantity supplied, this is what we call a shortage, and this also affects price, okay? And then Q, or quantity demanded equaling quantity supplied, that's equilibrium. I've said this at various times throughout the course, but a lot of economics is just common sense, okay? If you look at the surplus, I'm a supplier. I have more of this stuff, whatever that is, than I can sell. What's going to happen to my price? It goes down, okay? So it's moving towards equilibrium. If there's a shortage, meaning there's more buyers than there are goods to satisfy their needs, then what happens is price goes up, okay, until you get to equilibrium. So why does price fall when a surplus occurs? So if the market price is above the equilibrium price, then the quantity supplied exceeds the quantity demanded, okay? So it's QS is greater than QD. Market is not in equilibrium. This is not a good thing. So there's more goods than, there are people to buy it. And as a consequence, price will go down. If you notice the pictures, this is a warehouse, right? This is a warehouse. This is your inventory if you're a supplier. If things are in the back room, not out on the showroom where they can be sold, these things can't make you money, okay? This actually costs you money because with all of these materials out here, you have to heat it. You have to hire this person to bring it out to the sales floor. This is all cost right here, okay? This is not revenue. This is just total cost for you. So keeping goods in large demand, keeping goods in large quantities in a place like a warehouse is not good for business. So a surplus is sometimes called what we call an excess supply. So when there is a surplus, sellers would like to sell, but they can't. And the reason they can't sell is not necessarily because demand is not there. It's because the price that they're currently selling it for is not where the demand is at. Remember, in order for demand to be participating in the market, you have to have willingness and ability. So this is what surplus is going to look like. This is my supply curve. This is my demand curve. Okay. That's where my equilibrium should be, $1.20. The supplier, though, is selling it at $2. Okay. So what you do when you draw this out is you'll take like a ruler or something, and you would go straight across, all right, to the $2, which is what the supplier is selling it for. So what's happening here is this is where demand is at $2, okay? This is where supply is. And so what we have is a triangle right here, right there. This is what represents surplus. If it's above the equilibrium price, it's surplus. So how many products are being made? 500. How many are being sold? 100. So what's the surplus? You take the 500, you subtract it from the 100, and so you have 400. That's my surplus. So I need to get rid of 400 products before I can reach my equilibrium price. How do you do that? You lower the price. How much do you lower the price? Well, it's got to be lower than $2, that's for sure. So assume it was down to $1.60. That brings us to here. So it's still, they're making 400, they're selling 200, so there's still 200 surplus. But now instead of my line being across the top here, it'll be here. But it's still above my equilibrium price. So I have to just keep changing my quantity supplied, meaning what I'm making, until I can, what I'm making and what people are willing to buy are in equilibrium, okay? So why does price rise when you have the opposite of a surplus, but you have a shortage? Well, it's because, people want something. Like this says, sorry, we're out of stock. People want it. And so it's going out in faster rates than it's coming in, meaning people are buying it faster than you can get it to the shelf. Now, what this is sometimes referred to is excess demand. And as I already said, its quantity demand is greater than quantity supplied. Toilet paper earlier in 2020, that was an example, okay? Now notice, up here you had surplus. This is just the mirror of it. So down here, if it's below the equilibrium price, it's called a shortage, all right? So I could read this to you, but I don't think I need to. It's right there if you need to read it. But the quantity supplied is 100, okay? The quantity demanded is 500. So you take 500, subtract it from 400, meaning you are short 400, okay? So there is a demand of 400 more than you're creating. So it's being sold at 40 cents, and, the price is too low, and there's too many people buying it, and it's created a shortage. So what's going to naturally happen is this will rise, the quantity supplied will rise until it reaches this point in which supply and demand will reach each other. So the equilibrium for chocolate bars is 300 bars supplied at $1.20 per unit, okay? Remember, this is my profit. This is my total revenue. I still have to subtract my total cost, but that's what it looks like. So if it's above the equilibrium, it's a surplus. If it's below the equilibrium, it's a shortage, okay? When you're asked to find out how many you're in excess of or how many you're short of, remember, you just take the points right here. You take the price that's being sold at, draw a line parallel to your x-axis, and then you come down here, 500, 100, 500 minus 100 is 400. 400 short. So equilibrium is always the point at which both the supply and the demand curves meet, where they intersect. Price is where you take your equilibrium and you go over to your y-axis, and we call that PE, price equilibrium. You do the same thing down to your x-axis. This is called quantity equilibrium or equilibrium quantity. Okay? This is the best that you could possibly, this is what you want. This is what you're always striving for in the market. Okay? But it's always in flux. Always. So a shortage, again, it's when the quantity demanded is greater than the quantity supplied. Surplus is a situation in which the quantity supplied is in excess of the quantity demanded. And that's it, okay, for this first part. It's pretty easy. If you have any questions, please send me an email. Thanks.